All right, music fans, welcome. Harmless Dave here, talking about real music and some real issues here. This video might be a little bit difficult for a few people, but I would advise maybe watching it and see what happens. And of course, doing all this in real time for a few real people out there, just like you and just like me. All right, quick plug for a band that's been around for, like 40 years. Sawyer Brown. They are back with their new album, Desperado Troubadours. I love music that's, true to what it originally started as. And this is just like the band back in the 80s or the 90s, just a fantastic album. And even if you don't like country music, I would say definitely check it out. All right. Just for the heck of it and say, yeah, he's right. I'm not into country, but it's really good. Um, Again, big thanks to my buddy Jim, who is the Southern rock country music expert who tipped me off to the new Sawyer Brown record. Now we'll shift gears here over from Sawyer Brown to Bryan Adams. Bryan Adams, who I don't talk about very often, has decided to narrate a new PETA video. PETA, People for the Ethical Treatment of Animals, calling out Canadian military, right, for wearing bearskin caps. All right, now, I'm not into hurting animals. I just want to say this up front. But Canada is a little screwed up right now. Let me get into this a little bit with what Bryan Adams is talking about here. He's calling out the Canadian Armed Forces for the bearskin caps worn by the military. The military up there, by the way, has become very aggressive in certain situations where people's rights are being infringed upon, free speech rights, medical freedom. Remember the truckers who went up there well, they were already there, but the truckers who protested some of the mandates and things that had come down, and you couldn't avoid taking one of those safe and effective, products. So Bryan Adams, though, he's decided to do the rock star, politically correct thing, right? He's a native of Kingston, Ontario. He says the Canadian government is endorsing this cruelty by using real bear fur on its military caps, even though military-grade faux bear fur now exists. He implores the public to tell the Canadian government to end the cruelty and go fur-free. Okay. Recently in the news, we had the governor from South Dakota apparently shoot her puppy, or at least talk about it in a book, which wasn't the brightest idea. But I think Canada has some bigger problems. Experts troubled by Canada's euthanasia laws. Huh. Gee, what's that all about, right? So again, shooting bears, not good, right? But hunting, been a thing for a long time. An animal, a bear, is not a human being. But what we've seen over the past few decades, I love animals, by the way. I have a miniature schnauzer named Ruthie. I love that dog. But, the value of human beings, I would put a little higher than that of animals. Here's the story from a couple of years ago. So Alan Nichols had a history of depression and other medical issues, but none was life-threatening when the 61-year-old Canadian was hospitalized in June of 2019 over fears he might be suicidal. He asked his brother to bust him out as soon as possible. Within a month, Nichols submitted a request to be euthanized, and he was killed. All right, full stop. He was killed. So within a month from his request, all right, they killed him, despite concerns raised by his family and a nurse practitioner. His application for euthanasia listed only one health condition as the reason for his request to die. You know what that health condition was? He had hearing loss, all right? probably could have been fixed with a hearing aid. They do so much these days with hearing aids, but yet that was his reason for not wanting to live anymore. Nichols' family reported the case to the police and health authorities, arguing that he lacked the capacity to understand the process and was not suffering unbearably among the requirements for euthanasia. They say he was not taking his needed medication, wasn't using the cochlear implant that helped him hear, and that hospital staffers improperly helped him with his request for euthanasia. Alan was basically put to death, his brother Gary Nichols said. Disability experts say the story is not unique in Canada, which is arguably the world's most permissive when it comes to euthanasia, allowing people with serious disabilities to choose to be killed in the absence of any other medical issue. Many Canadians support euthanasia, and the advocacy group Dying with Dignity says the procedure is driven by compassion and an end to suffering and discrimination and a desire for personal autonomy. But human rights advocates say the country's regulations lack necessary safeguards to value the lives of disabled people and are prompting doctors and health workers to suggest the procedure to those who might not otherwise consider it. Equally troubling, advocates say, are instances in which people have sought to be killed because they weren't getting adequate government support to live. I thought Canada was big on government assistance. That's kind of weird. Anyway, Canada is set to expand euthanasia access next year, but these advocates say the system warrants further scrutiny now. Euthanasia cannot be a default for Canada's failure to fulfill its human rights obligations, said Marie-Claude Landry, the head of its Human Rights Commission. Landry said she shares the grave concern voiced last year by 3 United Nations human rights experts who wrote that Canada's euthanasia law appeared to violate the agency's Universal Declaration of Human Rights. You know, it's really bad when the UN is stepping in to lecture someone or a country on human rights. They said that the law had a discriminatory impact on disabled people, and was inconsistent with Canada's obligations to uphold international human rights standards. You see why the Bryan Adams thing is kind of small potatoes compared to this? Tim Stainton, director of the Canadian Institute for Inclusion and Citizenship at the University of British Columbia, described Canada's law as probably the biggest existential threat to disabled people since the Nazis' program in Germany in the 1930s. But instead, we're going to worry about bear caps. During his recent trip to Canada, Pope Francis blasted what he has labeled the culture of waste that considers elderly and disabled people disposable. We need to learn how to listen to the pain of the poor and the most marginalized people, Francis said, lamenting the patients who, in place of affection, are administered death. So there you have it. The Pope chimes in. The Pope isn't exactly a right-wing Pope or anything, you know. So Bryan Adams, again, talking about PETA, and, you know, he's worried about bears, which I understand, but I haven't heard any rock stars from Canada chime in about these ridiculous laws up there with regards to euthanasia. And again, just trying to make a little point here. I don't know. I think folks need to like worry about human beings. You know, we've got human beings dropping dead. Nobody seems to care. They like to talk about it, right? They like to report on it. Hey, so-and-so just dropped dead. I've got another one, by the way, which I'll be talking about soon. Before I just quit on this video, which again, it's depressing. It's a depressing topic. I don't even know if I should share music in this, but here's Sawyer Brown, Desperado Troubadours. Great album. Check it out if you like country music, even if you don't. My name is Dave. Please support my channel. I'm pretty much 100% certain I'm under attack by the algorithm. I look at other channels with like 10,000 subscribers and they're getting 20,000 views on a video. I have 77,000 subs and I can barely get to 4 or 5K on most of the videos I do. I know I'm not super exciting and at times even a bit depressing, but it's weird because unless these subscribers are imaginary, you would think I would have a slightly higher number of viewers on each video. Anyway, folks, for those of you who already support, thank you so much. For those of you who don't, there's Patreon, YouTube memberships, and the Buy Me a Coffee feature, which is really cool. I had someone buy me a coffee yesterday, and I appreciate that very much. God bless everyone. Pray for Canada that they straighten themselves out. But right now, they're going in the absolute wrong direction.